short, zeitgeist savvy, and strangely familiar. Today we're talking about Universality, a Booker Prize nominated book for 2025. Universality is really a mosaic of intersecting lives across, I would say, today's kind of cultural flashpoints. You see a lot of this desire for control and to wield power. The themes in this book are very in your face, and they are what you would expect in a book about current kind of social issues in the Western world. You've got things like late stage capitalism, racism, misogyny, class warfare, agency, power. All the different things are all represented in this book very, very clearly and very, very intentionally. The characters are a pretty broad group of individuals. I will say this, I don't think any of them are likable. They all are relatable in that you may not be able to relate with them, but you know someone that is going to remind you of somebody. It might be your crazy uncle, it might be a politician, it might be a movie star or a social media influencer, but they are relatable each in their own way, but I didn't find any of them particularly likable. And that doesn't make or break the book for me. I actually think it works well for what I believe the point is of universality. I may have confused the point, but I do think it works well for the story that the author set out to tell. Here's what worked for me. The author is undeniably talented. Her efficiency with her prose is really quite something to see. She doesn't waste time with a bunch of fluff. She gets exactly where she's going, and she still manages to elicit reactions from the reader, even with such a slim book. I also think one of the things that worked for me, oddly enough, is the unlikability of the characters. Normally, I'm someone who needs to see some kind of element of transformation or hope or something that just doesn't make me feel like gross inside. And none of these characters necessarily gave that to me, but I think because of how the story is told and the narrative device that the author is using as she interweaves all these different perspectives of the same situation and allows the reader to kind of see the ideals and beliefs of each individual person, I think really works for what the author was intending to do. But there were definitely a few things that didn't really work for me personally. And the biggest thing is that a lot of the big topics felt name-checked rather than explored. It is the kind of thing where you see people who know all these big kind of loaded terms like late stage capitalism and misogyny and all those kinds of things, and it feels like I'm going to write a book where all of those things are very clearly seen but not necessarily explore any of those. And I get that part of the reason that that is probably done in this book is to allow the reader to have that space to have to navigate that themselves. The problem is when you're just stating the things that someone already knows because they live in the Western world and they're seeing all these things and they're living in this reality all the time, and you're not then actually exploring the ideas, it really just feels like you're name checking them. And I think what happens is that you end up running the risk of validating biases instead of challenging biases. I think the other thing that didn't necessarily work for me is that there were often times that this book felt way more pedantic than profound. And I think that's because there is such a strong through line of nihilistic thought that nothing really matters, that nothing is ever going to change, that people are always just going to be corrupt and at each other's throats, that it doesn't actually invite any interesting conversation or bringing anything new to the table. Now, my final determinations always fall into one of three categories. Just read it. If you have time, read it. Or it's your time, not mine, so read it if you want. And this is definitely one of those books that is, it's your time, not mine. So if you want to read it, go for it. I do think that this book, like some of the others that I've done reviews for, would be best read in a book club or a buddy read. I think reading this in a silo would actually do the reader a disservice because it is addressing so many big topics, even if it's very heavy-handed and even if those things aren't explored. At least if you're in a book club or a buddy read, it's going to allow you to have some good, constructive, and I think hopefully civil conversation through it. But this is one of those books that I don't necessarily think I would recommend, but if you want to read it, go for it. I would just encourage you to read it with a few other people so you have some people to discuss it with. All right, that's it for today. As always, stay curious, read deeply, and I'll see you in the library.